Welcome to Future Foodcast. I'm Pam Miller, your host. And usually our shows are all coming from companies that are in the food industry, talking about manufacturing, innovation, technology, trends in foods. I am so excited today to actually have a sports nutritionist with us who works with professional athletes and elite performers, and to get her perspective on how we can all do better with our personal nutrition. I want to welcome to the podcast Klaudia Buczek. She is the co-founder and CEO of Made by Diet. Welcome to the show, Klaudia.
Thank you so much for such a great introduction, Pam. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, well, and we just had the Olympics this summer and the Paralympics, and I know that you work with a lot of elite athletes, and actually you are an elite athlete. You were on the national team. You're coming to us from Poland.
Exactly, yes. I come from Poland. I currently live in Warsaw, and I'm a former representative of Poland national team in speed climbing.
Yeah, that is so exciting. I'm just thrilled to get your perspective, because not only do you now, I mean, following your passion for athletics and just pushing our bodies to the limit. My goodness, being on the national team and just at that level of activity, it's just a whole different nutritional need than most normal people have. So I'm really excited to get your perspective. Well, tell me a little bit about Made by Diet, how you got started, and I think I know some of the motivation behind why you're doing this based on what we just talked about, but give us a little background.
Well, Made by Diet is a sport nutrition clinic that was created out of love to sport, good habits, and a healthy lifestyle. It all started with a sport and passion, because, as I said, I was Poland, a representative of Poland national team in speed climbing. So, and for 10 years. And during this, my sport career, I also studied nutrition. I studied food technology and human nutrition with a specialty of dietetics. And I graduated the postgraduate study in a field of clinical nutrition. So I started to be interested in nutrition. As an athlete, I checked a lot of sport nutrition strategies on myself. So when I finished my sport career, I just wanted to share the knowledge with other people, because I knew that nutrition really matters, really influence our recovery, our performance, health, well-being. So there's many things that we can improve by manage what we eat.
Yeah, that's great. And you have both the experience for 10 years as an elite athlete, and also you studied and got degrees in nutrition, different nutrition disciplines, and that you bringing all of that to what you do today. So we hear that we are what we eat, but you've really proven that out. It really matters.
Yeah, it really matters. Like currently, I work with I would say three groups of people. Like the main group are athletes and the physically active people, both professional athletes and athletes amateur. But I also work with people who have some medical conditions, diet-related diseases. For example, IBS, anemia, problems with carbohydrate metabolism, like insulin resistance, reactive hypoglycemia, and some symptoms regarding their gastrointestinal tract. So this is the second group of people. But the third group are people who just struggle with their weight, and I help them simply to lose a couple of kilograms, or sometimes gain a bit of kilograms in a more healthy way.
Yeah, and I imagine the gaining part is less common. I think I most commonly hear people that want to lose weight rather than gain weight, although I have heard both.
Well, for sure, there's more people who want to lose weight, but when it comes to athletes and the physically active people, there is also a group of people whose goal is to gain some more muscle mass.
Ah,
especially within strength sports.
now that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so talk to us about how our nutrition affects us. I mean, where do you even start trying to figure out, um, what kind of diet we should have, and how do you start with your clients?
So the first step is the in-depth diagnostics, including the analysis of the food diary, so the food that you eat on a daily basis, in-depth dietary questionnaire, and body composition assessment and analysis of blood test results. So taking into account all those things, I can analyze your needs, I can analyze your simply needs, and
Mm-hmm.
how the nutrition should be personalized
Yeah.
in your case. The second step is definitely individual consultation, so one-to-one meeting, during which I speak with my client. I simply try to understand their his or him needs, his or her needs actually, the goals, what are those, what is his or her motivation, and yeah, important thing is to take that I don't analyze only nutrition, but I take into account also the medical condition, the medical history, the body weight history, physical activity, training schedule, and individual preferences. So I think nutrition is too little to analyze it. It's important to take a look at the bigger picture to help people in individual goals.
I think that's a really important point, Claudia, because a lot of times people just focus in on just the food alone, but really we as a whole person are the important thing to look at, and what our activity level, like you were talking about. A lot of the people that you work with are very active, but maybe some more average people or normal people that have regular jobs and maybe aren't elite athletes or all maybe as active as they should be. I mean, that's a good piece of information to have as you're trying to figure out, the entire picture. But one thing you said earlier that I think all of us can take away, I know when I started keeping a food diary, I think you were calling it, just writing down what we eat and drink, and even our activity level, just getting the facts. Because you might look back and say, oh, well, I don't snack very much. But if you actually wrote down what you put in your mouth when you put it in your mouth, you might see that the facts show a little bit different story when you have to keep track. Do you find that with your clients as well?
Exactly. Yes, I do find the same uh, during the cooperation with my clients. So journaling, simply writing down what you eat during the day, what you drink, any snacks, can really gives you a lot of information about your nutrition. So it can be really helpful for tracking your nutrition simply.
Right. Yeah. And I know there's lots of different apps that are available now if you don't want to write it down, where you can actually get an app on your phone and keep track of it that way as well. So really, we don't have any excuse for not taking that step in our own personal, care of ourselves, using some of the information that you're bringing. Like, it's important to keep track of all that. Well, what are some of the things that you're seeing right now out there? What kind of trends are happening? I think we learn new information all the time about food and its effect on our bodies. And, is there anything you'd like to share with us about what's currently happening?
Well, what I observed in my clinic, working with individual clients, is the trend of consuming less meat. Some people even eliminate eating animal-derived products. So this rising trend is I observe nowadays within my clients for sure.
Yeah. So what adjustments do we need to make if we are eating less animal protein? What other adjustments do we need to make in our diet? Because that, the protein sourcing is important.
Yeah, maybe first we can talk about some factors that because the trend is driven by several factors, and it's important to understand that. So I asked everyone, why do you want to eliminate meat? Why do you want to limit the amount of animal derived products? So it's important to understand the person to be able to help him or her a bit better.
Okay.
So I think the first factor that we can point out here is our health benefits, because we know that increasing the amounts of vegetables and fruits, whole grains, nuts, seeds can really improve our immune system, can contribute to longevity, even can really lower the risk of many diseases, especially chronic diseases like cardiovascular disease, like type 2 diabetes, or even certain cancer. So World Health Organization recommends eating at least 400 grams of fruits and vegetables per day. And we already know that eating more than 400 grams, around 600 or even 800 grams of fruits and vegetables per day, can have even more positive impact on our health and reduce the risk of many diseases like cardiovascular, certain cancer, and type 2 diabetes.
Wow.
So I think this is important for people, and people understand that, want to improve their health, and many people simply adjust their nutrition, reduce the amount of meat simply because they want to improve their health. And on the other hand, we know that processed meat is linked with increased risk of cardiovascular disease and certain cancer. So this is also another situation that can be linked with decreasing the amount of meat that people eat.
Yeah, and I think, gosh, in today's society, a lot of people think about going to the doctor and getting some kind of prescription for different diseases or states or symptoms that they're having. And the reality is that we could just change our diets proactively ahead of time to try to avoid even having those situations or maybe experiencing those symptoms. There's a lot of things that we can do nutritionally to help ourselves, is what I'm hearing you say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this is the one factor. I think that another factor is for sure environmental impact, because meat production is a significant contributor to environmental degradation. And many people nowadays take care about environment and eliminate eating meat simply because of this reason. And so what I see within my clients is also ethical consideration and animal welfare. So this is, I would say, the third factor that contributes to this trend.
Yeah. So are there different kinds of other sources of protein that we could consider if we're looking to eat less animal protein for some of those reasons that you just brought up?
Yeah, there is a plenty of sources of plant-based protein that you can implement into your daily nutrition. When we talk about vegan diet, so the most restrictive vegetarian type of diet, the main source of protein in this nutrition way, this nutrition pattern, are definitely legumes. Like we have chickpeas, we have different kinds of beans, we have lentils, but also tofu and soy products.
Okay.
Some whole grains like quinoa, amaranth are the main source of protein, of plant-based protein. We
Okay.
can also, especially for athletes or physically active people whose protein needs is higher, we can also use protein powder based on some plant-based source like
Right.
rice or beans
Okay.
and many other sources.
Yeah. Well, thanks for giving some options to our audience. I appreciate that. Now, let's talk about some of the clients that you see, because I know I, I mean, I'm an athlete myself, and very physically active now, just running, lifting weights. I climb mountains for fun, and so I pay attention to my nutrition. I'm pretty motivated in that area, but I would think that that would be a major challenge for you working with some of your clients. I mean, um, is there a difference like between the professional athletes, for example, and maybe some of the other clients that you see that aren't professional athletes? I'm thinking there is.
Yeah, sure. There is a difference. So, firstly, the professional athletes has just one job. Their job is to train. So this is the only thing that they need to do on a daily basis, right? So they wake up in the morning and they eat a breakfast and go for training. Then they come back, they prepare dinner, then maybe they go for another training or they simply relax the rest day and manage other things.
Mhm.
So this is how the reality for professional athletes looks like. Of course, there's lots of competition, lots of other things related to competition, but it's completely different story for athletes amateur who wake up in the morning, they go to work, then they come back from work and they train in the evening. So their time is much more limited compared to
Mhm.
professional athletes. And yeah, and there's even more athletes amateur who want to train in a similar way as professionals do. So I would say this is the main difference that we need to take into account.
Yeah. Well, I would think that'd be yeah, very different. And you were talking about the three trends that you see, or the three different kinds of clients that you work with. And the third category you talked about was clients that want to lose weight, or maybe some that want to gain. But
Yeah.
I know that you talked about it. One of the trends in Poland as well. We see that here in the United States, and I imagine in a lot of other countries in the world, the rising trend of obesity among people, where they're just, we have a real challenge with that. Do you have any thoughts for our audience that might be struggling with maybe a couple extra kilograms? I'll use the Polish measure.
Yeah, for sure. This is a really big problem. And nowadays, we already know that obesity is not only, aesthetic problem. It's a health problem. It's related to many medical conditions, like increased risk of certain cancer, of cardiovascular disease, of type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, hypertension, stroke, and many, many more. So it's an extremely complex thing, and we need to understand also the reason. What is the reason behind this obesity? And actually, it's there may be a couple of things that that are linked to increase, let's say, obesity epidemic nowadays. So the first, I would say, is definitely sedentary lifestyle,
Mm.
or more sedentary lifestyle compared to the previous years. Because like here, when we talk about physical activity, we can divide it into physical activity that is related to trainings, or sport activities, like you can go running, you can play tennis, you can go climbing, or trekking, climb mountains and things like that. But there is also a second type of physical activity, which is related to simply daily movements. Like, for example, walking, like taking stairs, like cleaning, gardening, and many other things. And this is called NEAT. But this is really important because this additional activities, daily activities, really increase our the energy, like energy we burn on a daily basis. So, and I think that it's important to take a look about our lifestyle, also taking account these two things, not only physical activity that we do in during our training session, but also how we work, how we travel, and how we simply move.
Yeah, would that be, if I have maybe an office job, which I don't, but I mean, a lot of people do, or maybe they're sitting, and with the pandemic, a lot of us worked at home, and maybe we just would stay in the same place for a long time. I mean, do you think it would help to maybe set a timer to get up and move around frequently so that you don't lose track of how long you've been sitting in front of your computer, for example? It's
Yeah,
easy to do.
sure, it will really help. The World Health Organization recommends at least 150 minutes of physical activity per week. So this is per week, 150 minutes of physical activity per week. So this is the minimum. So it's around 30 minutes per day. And it don't need to be very intense in activity. It can be simply jogging or even, walking, playing tennis. It's important to find activity that you really like, that is enjoyable for you, because it can be easier to create a, habit when you do something that you like.
That's so true. Klaudia, I was about to say the activity you should do is something that you enjoy, that you will do. Like the best activity is something you'll do. I mean, if somebody says you just need to run 20 minutes a day, but you don't like to run, you're not going to do that. So it doesn't matter if it's, just small increments, but and it adds up, right? We don't have to do it all at one time. Like if we do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the middle of the day, 10 minutes after dinner, maybe, we take a nice walk. I mean, that's good. That's 30 minutes for that day, right? I mean, we aren't necessarily getting the aerobic effect of, the accumulation of maybe doing that all in one session and the stamina that might come with that, but we're getting started. Somebody who's not doing anything at all, small increments, like do 5 or 10 minutes of something at a time and then start to build up. If you don't have, you're not very physically active or don't have a lot of stamina, start where you are, and then you can add on to that as you get stronger, as you get more stamina, and you can go for a longer time.
Yes, for sure. It's important to, start with something minimal. So if you can't afford longer activities, start with even 5 minutes of walking, 5 minutes of riding a bike, or it's important to engage in activity that is available for you and that is, enjoyable.
That's right.
And simply and step by step increasing the time. So even 5 minutes is better than doing nothing.
That's right.
So it's completely true.
Better than goose eggs, as we say, which would be zero, the big zero. Well, so you really, I love your approach though at your clinic, where you just take a look at the whole person. When you do your questionnaires and you're doing the blood work, you're taking all of the different measurements and intake of what they're eating now and what they're doing physically. I think that's a good message. Like it's just a holistic view of us as people when we come to you as a client. And that's really the way we should approach our own lives too, right? From a nutrition standpoint and kind of that holistic living a healthy lifestyle moving forward.
Exactly. It's everything is linked in within our body. It's not only nutrition, but also our the physical, the psychological factors influence what we eat. Our physical activity influence what we eat. Also, the sleep pattern, our emotions. So there's lots of things that influence what we eat and how we behave. Also, people that we are surrounded have extremely huge impact. And I can see that, especially, it's important for people who are losing weight to be surrounded by people who they can observe and so it's important for people, especially who struggle with weight, to be surrounded by people who have healthy eating habits, because I can see that sometimes some other people can have a bad influence on our eating habits as well. So it's important also to take a look at the people who we are surrounded with.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I bet you've noticed. I'm thinking about. I've noticed certain families or people that spend time together on a regular basis. They tend to be similar in their body composition. You might not that it's like a lean family, but there's a more fit family. Maybe they're more physically active together, or they're doing things and maybe paying more attention to what they're eating. And then you might have another family who everyone in the family is somehow obese or a little overweight. And it's a trend within that group. So it's really interesting that you say that. I think about families, but I think also our friends and the people we spend time with, and maybe go to dinner with, or go to parties with, or spend time. Eating is also a very social activity for a lot of us, and so I think we need to think about. That's when we tend to.
Exactly. Nutrition is really social, and we need to also take it into account. And for example, when it comes to losing weight, it's important to change eating habits within the whole family, not only within one person. For example, kids. I used to work with kids in the past. Now I work mostly with adults, but for example, within kids, it's not it won't help changing eating habits only for this small young person, but it's important to change eating habits for the whole family. It will not work that the family will cook a very healthy dinner for their child, and they will eat fried chicken, and fries without no vegetables for dinner. So it will not work. So it's important to take it into account and work holistically on changing eating habits among the whole family, not only one person.
Yeah, that's an important point, because the child is not going to be usually cooking their own meals. And so the parents need to be eating those healthy meals as well, which that's good for everyone. I mean, and you've kind of made me more aware and paying attention to thinking about, the impact food has on my health long term, as far as different disease states too. I think that that's something that our audience can take away, that there's a lot of proactive things we can do to give ourselves good nutrition. Like you said, the 400 grams is a minimum, 400 to 600 for fruits and vegetables, and really focusing on whole foods as we move forward, and choosing some good alternative protein sources. If you are trying to reduce your animal protein, don't neglect getting that protein somewhere else, because our body needs it. So we've got to find that well-rounded diet. Well, Klaudia, is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience before we go? I think you have a wealth of information. I think all your years as an elite athlete and now working with them, and your studies in all kinds of nutritional areas and clinical nutrition. Is there anything else you would like for us to know?
Well, I think it's important to mention that the process of losing weight and changing eating habits is not a straight line, and there will be some ups and downs. And it's important to understand that it's completely normal and it's a part of the process. And implementing some things that will help us to stay motivated are extremely important. Whether it's a regular, appointment with a specialist will help us to stay motivated, or it's a journaling, so writing down what we eat, our exercise routine, or tracking calories, setting clear goals which are achievable for us, and monitor tracking the process, and visualizing success will be also very helpful in the whole process, or getting to our individual goal.
Wow. Such great words of wisdom. Thank you so much for being on our show. We really appreciate your insights and your expertise, Klaudia.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yep. And to our audience, thanks for listening and watching on YouTube. Please subscribe and leave us a comment. We will answer everyone. We're so glad you're with us. Until next time, I'm Pam Line-Miller.
Thanks for listening to Future Foodcast. Future Foodcast is powered by Farm to Plate, the leading food blockchain platform. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to stay up to date with the very latest innovations in the food industry.